touch me, might get arrested. She's sitting in my new shit, we still getting messy. I've been in love.
And I'm gonna change. I know we can't be wrong. No matter how hard we try. No matter how hard we try.
The hill here at Goodwood is one of those iconic bits of motor racing these days. And here I am in the 1962 World Championship winning car. Off I go. Graham Hill won the 1962 World Championship in this wonderful BRM. Through the boulevard of trees, coming up to the first couple of right-handers now. It's a fantastic sight as you come through this bit of the track with the house on the left, this beautiful sculpture at the corner of your eye, but you're firmly focusing on the track, the lines of hay bales with the sea of people behind it. Up into Malcolm, a tricky left-hander, and as you start to climb up, this amazing view of the Flint Wall looms ahead. Round the Flint Wall, give it a wide berth, be nice and safe. This come from the Collier collection in America. It is exactly how Graham Hill drove it back in the 60s. To be honest, it's the first Formula One car driven with no seatbelts, which is quite extraordinary. I'm bracing myself up against the side of the car to come through the final corner and through the finish line. A fantastic bit of Formula One history to drive here at Goodwood, up the hill, and showing all of you at home a little bit of just what we see from the cockpit.
Well, always fun for Karun to show us how to go up the hill, but we've got some other fabulous machinery about to come out and play now. And you're looking at the Lotus cars now, Formula One cars from different periods. The Lotus Cosworth 49, this was a car that had so much success with the Ford Cosworth engine in the back. That's when the Ford Cosworth first came into Formula One, and with Lotus, what a combination it was.
Certainly was, and I just love these shots. You just see how exposed the engine is, and really have a good look. As we can see, we've got another Lotus Cosworth 3-litre engine built in 1971, but look at those shots and the size of the rear tyres as well on that, Ben.
Yeah, wonderful. The Lotus Cosworth 72. This was built in the early 1970s. Ronnie Peterson was a competitor with it, but then moving up to the slightly later versions of it, this was the Lotus Cosworth 77, and then Nick Padmore is going to be driving this, and Nick is always very rapid up the hill. Of course, we've still got these rather wet conditions, but there's a lovely view as well from inside the cockpit.
And this is what I love. Just that is how I would love to see modern day cars just go, do you know what, we'll get rid of all the paddles and we'll just go back to your old school, having to take one hand off the wheel. And actually those are the times where I really enjoy driving those kind of machinery back in sort of, say, the Formula Renault days. But this is a bit more of a conventional design than the 76.
Yeah, Gunnar Nielsen was driver of that. Then you move on to the 79. Now, this was very, very successful. This was the ground effect Lotus, where they introduced ground effect in Formula One. Even though actually Ferrari had played with the idea, they didn't actually go with it. Lotus went with it initially, and this was the year that Mario Andretti took the driver's title and the constructor's title for Lotus. It was a very dominant season, and it is a stunning machine.
It is, and it made its debut at the Belgian Grand Prix at Zolder, an iconic track as well. And it won at the hands of Andretti, and later that year it also won the Austrian Grand Prix too.
Yeah, so going from that, you're going to some slightly different machinery heading down the list as well. This is, of course, one of the new Lotus exciting supercars that we are looking forward to seeing this weekend. Lotus has got a tremendous stand, actually, and this is their new model, which is very, very rapid indeed, produces a lot of power, and we'll be seeing that go up the hill shortly.
Yeah, we will. And then I saw a glimpse lining up behind these beautiful Lotus cars, and look at the back of that, hugely impressive. As Ben said, they've got a wonderful stand, so really do make sure you venture down into the paddocks to take a look, not just at the race car, but the fabulous road cars as well.
Yeah, and this has 4 electric motors. Huge.
There's the stand.
Yeah, there's the stand. So celebrating 75 years since Colin Chapman set up the Lotus sort of plan and started creating cars from the very beginning. Of course, the Lotus 7 was a key part of that, the little sports car. That was taken on by Caterham in the 1970s, early 1970s. Caterham are also here this weekend as they continue building a car that is very much along the lines of what Colin Chapman created so many years ago. There's the Emira from Lotus as well. So we are seeing some of their most current machines going up the hill, as well as seeing some of their classic race cars.
Yeah, so this Emira, there's going to be 4 of those going up the hill at some point throughout the weekend. A V6 and powered by Mercedes AMG. 2-litre engine, 360 horsepower.
I'm really sorry.
Yeah, and then this is the Elettra. This is the SUV. This is new to see as well. Electric SUV from Lotus. So this is something a slightly different angle, but so many of the top sports manufacturers are producing machinery like this because there is a lot of demand for that.
Yeah, there certainly is, and you can just see we've got a nice shot there inside the cockpit, inside the car. And a lot of these manufacturers are also going for the big sort of centre console, aren't they? Dash now, which is obviously the 2 thing. They almost look like giant tablets.
They do, yes, that's right. Let's go and join Laura.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm just interrupting some pre-hill climb. That's okay, Miss Guzzi. Marc Genet, hello, in this beautiful Scuderia Ferrari. Talk me through the car and welcome to Goodwood.
Thank you very much. Yes, so happy. This is the SF71H, so it's the hybrid one. It's the first time we bring the hybrid to Ferrari. Sorry, I didn't take the hands out.
It's well balanced.
But yeah, it's very nice. It really is. It's so special. it's been so many years now I've come to Goodwood, and I think it's nice to show the latest, the hybrid cars, very powerful, you know, and with so much aerodynamic appendices. This is one of the fastest Ferraris that was built for the new era.
Yeah, and it's absolutely stunning. How much are you looking forward to getting up the hill in the rain as well?
Well, you know, normally I use the wet tires anyway, even in the dry, so that's okay even in the wet. There'll be some more sliding probably. You have to be a bit more careful, but it's not raining so much. It's just damp, so those tires are perfectly for those conditions.
It's just damp. That's something a racing driver would say. I would not call this just damp. That's very wet for me. Goodwood, how much does it mean to be back here as well in this celebration of motorsport?
Yeah, this year is special. Also, we have the Ferrari 499, the one that won Le Mans. And honestly, this is an event. To my friends, I always tell them that once in a lifetime, they have to come to Goodwood. To me, Goodwood is similar to coming to Indianapolis or to Monaco Grand Prix or to Le Mans. You know, you have to see it at least once in a lifetime. If you don't repeat, of course, most of the people repeat. I have repeated for so many years. But yeah, it's a special year this year for Goodwood. 75th anniversary also for Porsche. You know, we won Le Mans after 50 years. So there's a lot of numbers that make that event this year very, very special. Yeah,
there are so many anniversaries. 75 years of motorsport here, and indeed the 30 years of the Festival of Speed as well. What else are you up to over the next weekend, few days of this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to just walking around, seeing some of those cars that you only see once in a lifetime. I just saw before some of the Ferraris that, honestly, this is the only day of the year that they run. So I just look forward to, after this run, just walk around and look at some of the cars and the motorbikes. I also like a lot to see the motorbikes and some of the my heroes, you know. I saw this morning, I don't know, Freddie Spencer, Casey Stoner, you know. I'm a big follower of MotoGP, and I like to see them riding, in that case, some of their own bikes.
Yeah, soak it all up. Marc Gené, thank you so much. That was like a love letter to Goodwood. Absolute pleasure to speak to you. Enjoy your run. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Well, let's head back to the commentators as we wait for this next batch to head up.
Well, it's lovely to hear from Marc Gené. He is such a part of Ferrari, but we're not just celebrating Ferraris. What we are also definitely doing this morning is celebrating Lotus.
Colin Chapman, the private plane commuting chairman of the Lotus group of companies, knows the meaning of success. Jim Clark, the first man home. The Lotus has become a success story for Chapman and for Britain.
Many thoughts of Lotus and celebrating so much of their success in creating both racing and road cars, and that's partly what we are going to be enjoying. And in fact, you're seeing some of the latest Lotuses at the back of the little group here, along with some of the historic Formula One cars nearer the front of the group, which is it's a beautiful mix to see to celebrate this 75 years of Lotus. And Colin Chapman's remarkable running of a team, of course, it has moved on in many ways now as a manufacturer. And you're just seeing the cars head off, having done another little separate start. They did the same thing yesterday, and we're going to have some lovely scenes in the background as well, celebrating the green and yellow, the original colours in their racing terms.
Thankfully, it will eventually clear. We will be able to see the cars go on track. There we go. But I absolutely love to see as well this livery back on track, up close and personal, and also hear the wonderful sounds as they go through, heading up the hill through Molecombe Corner now.
Yeah, you're hearing lots of Cosworths because the later Lotuses all used the Ford Cosworth engine. Then you've got a rather quiet electric-powered super-duper car there just going through. That was the Avija. And then, as we mentioned, the Elettra, that's bringing up the rear. But there's a very pretty little Lotus Climax 18. That was one of the early successful cars that in 1961, Monaco, Sterling Moss took a remarkable victory holding off the Ferraris. And then we've also seen some of the Lotuses that came after that, the Lotus 21, the 25 and the 33, cars that Jim Clark took a huge amount of success, double world champion, so sadly lost from an accident in a Formula 2 race in 1968, but one of the greatest talents of all time, and we can still celebrate his career as part of our celebration of everything here at Goodwood. I'm sure we'll have other celebrations of anniversaries of his career as well, but he was a key part of Lotus, so it's always important to mention him. His relationship with Colin Chapman was crucial too. But in the modern world, Lotus are making new steps, you know, like this SUV type vehicle that they're creating. Ferrari are producing bigger four doors as well. This is something that the big manufacturers are all heading along in the electric route. But James, we've also got a lovely collection of bikes due up the hill. James Hayden joins us, a great racer himself, but loving to talk about these bikes. And I know you've got a lot of heroes yourself here this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely brilliant to see. And we can see there Mika Kallio there. I mean, these are the latest spec of MotoGP bikes. 2023 spec, you know, they're 260 brake horsepower V4 monsters. You can see what the conditions are like out there. You know, it's damp, it's slippy, it's just what you don't want. Luckily, they have got some electronics. They will all be running on wets, but it's they'll be softening down the power a little bit for them, making them a little bit easier to ride up the hill, but they're still going to be monsters. We got the Red Bull KTM there, Mika Kallio, as I say, on the right. Then we got the Piro, the Ducati Test Rider. So we just got some really sort of big names. We got the Honda there as well, and such a nice mix. You can also see the Aprilia. All this current crop that we're looking at here, apart, you know, these are all V4s. So 22 of the 24 bikes on the MotoGP grid now have all gone to V4s. It's only the Yamaha that remains an inline 4, as we see Mika Kallio on that KTM, and it is beautiful. And the other thing you've got to look at in these bikes, look at the aerodynamics now. Look at the downforce. They really are quite a different thing compared to what we've seen previously. And you know, they just sort of come on. You know, it's a 16-valve double overhead. This got 255 brake horsepower. It revs to 18,500. It really is a wonderful looking machine. And just listen to it as it comes up towards the commentary box.
It is wonderful to see and hear, as you say. And we've got some of these bikes from different periods as well, coming up the hill.
Yeah, this is Rin's LCR Honda. This bike won the American Grand Prix, and so it's great to see the Honda here. The Honda struggled a little bit this year in the World Championship with Marc Marquez, and compared to the usual really high standards, and you can see he just gave it a little bit, and already it was spinning. But these bikes, monsters. Here's Piro. He's on the factory Ducati, and this is the greatest racing motorcycle that's ever been built, in my opinion. Right now, you know, it's the top 3 in the World Championship. As we look back to Savadori, he's on the Aprilia. That's the V4 again, MotoGP bike. That's pushing about 260. Such a wonderful style, I think. It's got a real amazing. He's going to give us a little bit of a burnout here. So he's just going to get the thing stopped. Steel disc. Normally they'd have carbon. Struggling a bit today. Oh, he's got it going now. So a nice little burn up. Listen to that V4. Like I say, that revs to 18,500, 19,000. Pushing out 260. Just giving a little something. It's a shame the riders can't give a little bit more as they come up. And as we just see now, coming past our box, number 34, Kevin Schwantz's Lucky Strike 500 V4 Suzuki. What a beautiful thing that is.
It is great to see some of the historic riders as well that have had so much success in the past. And this must be an opportunity for them to meet some of the youngsters now, James, who are becoming the new stars. It must be a lovely social collection here this weekend.
Yeah, very much. And I mean, you've got such a mix. I mean, we've got Mick Grant there in picture. You know, he's back on an RG, you know, back in the old RG500s, which dominated racing in the 70s. It was what Barry Sheen won his, you know, both his world championships on. You know, Mick Grant, you know, well into his 70s now, and you've got, yeah, that's the mix, and still nipping it along very nicely indeed, and a gorgeous style. And then yeah, one and only Casey Stoner. Casey Stoner, double world champion, a young Australian. Retired early, but lovely to see him back out.
Yeah, we were chatting to him yesterday, weren't we? And he was giving us a lovely bit of feedback. He really enjoys being here at Goodwood, there's no doubt about it. And another one who's just absorbing the atmosphere, having taken 2 titles, as you say.
Yeah, and he was quite unique. I've never seen anyone that could just go out the pits and on their first flying lap, bang, break lap record.
One of those, is he?
He was just really, really exceptional. You know, he came to British Championships, a little sort of 15-year-old kid, came over from Australia, lived in a caravan with his dad. You know, did it the hard way, but what a natural talent, and lovely to see Casey Stoner back, having a nice little run up the hill.
I like the way he's doing it too, just dip the clutch, give it a bit of a rev, let everyone listen in.
Exactly, listen into that gorgeous sounding V4. So, you know, it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, it is great. And up past this very beautiful part, past the Flint Wall here at Goodwood, and taking it all the way to the top.
I mean, Tagachi have bought such a range of their bikes. You know, they've got the 2002 version, they've got the latest 2023 version, and remember, you know, these bikes as well. You know, Mugello at the Mugello Grand Prix just a few weeks ago, you know, they went, you know, through at 223 miles an hour. We're looking there. That's Caparossi's one of Caparossi's old bikes. So that's
2003. This one bike comes from, doesn't it?
Yeah, 2003. So. You know, Capagrossi was on the podium in the opening round of that year in Japan on that bike, and then he won in Catalonia. So it was a good year. Ducati finished second in the manufacturer standings that year on that particular bike. Bayliss, his teammate, was sixth. You know, it's like a double L twin motor, 4-cylinder. But listen again to the punch of it. But again, you see how simplistic the styling looks in comparison to where we are now. You know, none of the winglets. You know, this is a much more sort of simple bike. You know, the aerodynamics and downforce as the powers really has moved on, has changed so much.
They always go on about the desmodromic valves. What does that mean? It's all part of the name, isn't it?
Yeah, it was Ducati's sort of mechanical sort of valve system, and you know, they've changed that in the later years. But basically, it's that was their name for the way that their valve system worked.
And they used the word quite nicely as to sort of put their name out even more, didn't they, with Ducati?
Yeah, very much.
So, excellent performance from them in the early 2000s. Super quick and competitive up against his Japanese rivals. Loris Caparossi making history. So that one, another one to enjoy. But we have such a great collection, as you mentioned. I'm not sure you'd ever see a collection quite like this anywhere else in the world, let alone in the UK.
No, that's right. And you weren't, and certainly won't be able to get as close to them as we are here. You know, you can see them if you go to a GP, but you're not getting into the paddock. You're not going to go and be able to look round them. And that's, again, this, you know, really amazing access, closeness that you get to the bikes and the riders here is nearly unheard of. And we've still got some other motorcycles. You know, we've got some more to come that haven't come out maybe today in the wet. You know, we haven't seen the Yamaha M1 yet. So as we go back to the cars, but it was just great to see some of those fantastic motorcycles running up there.
It was indeed, and thank you so much, James. And stay with us, because it's lovely to have your view as well on some of these Formula One cars that are now heading up. And Marlboro McLaren, of course, that was a very notable brand in the 1970s. They had a lot of success. This wasn't the most successful of them all, but it was still a good time for McLaren, as they were gradually developing and producing cars that would end up coming to the very, very top of the tree. So we're going to talk a bit more about McLaren in just a moment, but let's look back over some of the history of it.
past isn't something I really think about. I only think about the next race, and I only look into the future.
This is the story of a young man from New Zealand. The name, of course, is Bruce McLaren.
What's the secret of success? Experience is tremendously important in motor racing.
Got one from very nasty one indeed.
The important thing for me is to drive and to win, and I did that.
What a fantastic finish! And it's happened immediately! This is amazing!
He had ambitions beyond what I could even understand. You know, going for the stars.
So there we are, celebrating the 60 years since Bruce McLaren created the McLaren team, which has been going on to wonderful success over the years. And we're seeing some of the action coming out now. And looking at a 1977 McLaren, the M26 car, just heading up the hill now. The championship in 1976. 77 wasn't quite as successful as it had been, but James Hunt still took 3 victories that year. And you know, we've all had years, Alice, where McLaren have had good years and bad years. So it actually wasn't a bad year at all in 77.
No, it certainly wasn't. And not a bad run up the hill. Michael Lyons behind the wheel of this, who's had good success in historic racing, especially on the streets at Monaco in the historic races there. And you can really see he wasn't taking it particularly easy going through Moulcombe Corner, coming up past the wall now. And just the beautiful, beautiful sound of this 1976 3-litre V8 engine.
Yeah, great piece of kit. And a time where McLaren actually were going to go into a slight more of a dip. 78, 79 was not such a good time for them. And that was the period when Ron Dennis actually ended up taking over as well. Now, this was a McLaren that raced in Australia, actually had quite a good amount of success out in Australia, and this was one of the slightly earlier ones as well. It's a McLaren M10B, and Chris Mattick is in it now, and it was sort of part of a family that took victories out there. It is the Formula 5000. Formula 5000 was an element of single-seater racing back in the 1960s, where effectively what you did was what these cars did. You put a US V8 engine into a single-seater, but now what you're looking at is one of the Can-Am cars, and this was an element for McLaren that was hugely significant. Having created their early sports cars, they went on to a huge amount of success in Can-Am.
Yeah, and it's nice to see the variety of success that they got. As you can see, I'm glad that he managed to say that, because I did think that was heading into the hay bale at one point. But it's just these rear wings. I mean, they're just gigantic, aren't they? The colours in the JCB, and then back now to a slightly more modern the McLaren F1 GTR Longtail 6-litre V12.
Yes, the Longtail. This was, of course, a development of the F1, what was originally Gordon Murray's F1 road car, that then turned into a race car, went on to win Le Mans, and then they created this this Longtail. And James, you know, aerodynamics, of course, became a thing. One of the fun things about these is that central seating position. It was like a racing car from the beginning, wasn't it?
Yes, very much, and yeah, they look absolutely stunning. And I love that about the new T50 as well. That, you know, that three-person